Okay, man. So I know I'm live on my own personal page. I'm going to share it to my business page.
Okay, I'm trying to see you. I don't see it on your page yet.
Okay, it's going to be on drug and alcohol terms. It's there now. It should be there right now. Okay,
Here we go, man. Got us.
you got us. So you can share it to your page.
Cool.
Is it? You got it?
Yep, I do.
All right, beautiful. All right, so it's 5 o'clock. So let's roll. So everybody, good afternoon. This is the Drug and Alcohol Attorneys Facebook Live show. This is the latest one we've done, and I am super super excited to have my new friend and brother from another mother, Vance Johnson, three-time Super Bowl winner with the Denver Broncos, and this is going to be a great show, folks. So, Vance, thank you very, very much for joining us. I am honored that you joined us, and I've enjoyed getting to know you a little bit. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person when you come down here.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how excited I am. I had a chance, obviously, to meet you and do some research about what you're doing and the space that you're in and what you're doing, especially with making these go live on Facebook for your interviews is something that I'm really interested in. And so you are my brother from another mother because we're going to be doing a lot of this, man.
You know, you're nearly as good looking as me, and from what I can tell, you're actually nearly in as good a shape as me. That's what's really interesting about this whole brother thing.
Now, I figured I'd do my push-ups so I can look like you today because I really wanted to. But my hair fell out again.
I told our mutual friend Kim, I said, I interviewed Vance yesterday. I said, he looks like he can put the pads on and still kick some ass out there. I said, I got to tell you, he looks like he's in great shape.
It's
So
if you just saw me a few years ago, you wouldn't have thought that. But I think that's something that when you're an athlete and when you were born to be an athlete, when you lose that, you kind of lose everything. So I made sure that's something that I really worked on when I got my sobriety back.
I love it. I love it. And I see that you've got one of your Super Bowl rings on, one of the three.
Just for you, we talked about this, and I wanted to make sure that I brought them all. That way, if we have time to talk about them, we can discuss what this is all about. The
Yep.
Broncos went to a total of five. I participated in three. So this was a lot of fun being a part of. But you know what? There was nothing about this that has anything to do with sobriety. This just has to do with winning. That makes sense.
Right. And I know that. And I guess in a certain way, it both took us a long time to have real purpose in our life, and our purpose is helping people. And so that's why I do the show, because it brings awareness. And I think when people see folks like you and Daryl and Ron Dark and Dickie Knowles, they say, wow, well, if he can get over it, if he can get through it, then I know I can. And I think it inspires people. And that's why I'm always grateful when especially guys like you, who've been through the ringer and who appear to have like this amazing life, had an amazing career, but yet, there was this sort of backdrop of addiction and crazy stuff going on. So,
Absolutely. And like yourself, myself, and Daryl, we were inspired young to climb these high mountains, to make something of ourselves. But once we get to the top of the mountain, it's pretty empty. And so whatever it was that got you to be inspired or driven to make it to that top of the mountain, you can use again actually when it's time to start doing another walk. And to me, that's about spreading this awareness is what's happening with addiction all over the country and just breaking stigma, man. I'm tired of people thinking you're a loser or a bum just because you
you
struggle
don't
with
look
it.
like a loser or a bum, I got to tell you. And a lot of the kids that I saved don't look like losers or bums.
You should ask my ex-wives. I think they still call me
It's all
loser.
right. My ex have already say the same about me, so don't feel so bad. It's good. So, so listen, let's go back in time a little bit, and I want to just get a little history, and so folks to sort of understand where you came from, where you went, and what you're doing now. So you grew up, I understand, in Trenton, New Jersey, right?
Well, I'm originally from Trenton, New Jersey.
Right.
My father actually ran the streets there, and he ended up joining the service. And he met my mother out in Arizona, where she was actually working on a cotton gin yard farm. So she picked cotton for a living. So when they met, he had a chance to dodge the draft, and they ended up going back to Jersey, and that's where I was born in 1963.
Okay. So did you? I know there was some. You lived in Arizona for a bit too, right?
Yeah, Arizona ended up being my home. So we kind of went back and forth from Trenton to Arizona, even though that's where I finished my high school and college at there in Arizona. But we kind of went back and forth because all my family is out here in the Northeast in New Jersey and up and down the coast, Virginia, a little bit of everywhere. And we wanted to stay connected to our family. And that's the reason why we kind of went back and forth.
Okay. So what was home life for you like growing up? What was your
Oh,
mom like? What was your dad like?
we're going to jump right into it. All right, let's do this.
Let's do it.
Home life growing up with, was well, it was my normal, when I was there. And but it was also tough. My father, my mother, what I love about them both is they are really strict in that they would only allow myself and my sister to do certain things. We weren't allowed to run the streets. Although my father ran the streets, we weren't allowed to do drugs or alcohol. Although my father at least did alcohol, and I used to smell marijuana on his breath as well. So, and the other thing that I think I noticed a lot in my home life growing up as a child was there was a lot of domestic issues that were happening within the home. And it was hard for my sister and I, but it became our normal. And being from the Northeast, especially from Jersey, we don't tell people what's happening in our life. So growing up as a young child and being in my elementary school years, I didn't talk a lot about what was happening at home. So there were some underlying issues already beginning to happen by seeing the domestic violence when I was there at the house, and obviously the addiction too. But none of that to a child means anything because, again, you think it's your normal.
Right. You think that's the way it should be, and
Yes.
that's just what it is. So when did you start to play sports?
You know, I started playing sports really young. When I was in Trenton as a little kid, when we go back in the summertime, I'd hang out with my cousins and we'd be racing people around the corner, around the blocks. And what they noticed was I was so fast that I could beat anyone my age and probably another 5 or 10 years older than me as well. So I'd race for quarters. So I'd win probably, I don't know, about $8.50 in quarters by racing all day long. And then I'd go home and run some more. So, and what I really started to notice though is I started to run a lot when, and I think my mom and at least my mother's watching, if not my father, I started to run the most though whenever there were some issues happening at the house. It's kind of where I disappeared at in my life inside of my head because that was something that I can control, and that's something that I really love doing. And I was a little scary cat too. They used to call me a little wussy.
So what was your favorite sport, growing up as a kid? Like what did you play in high school and
Well, one sport I did not like was football, believe it or not. I liked running track and I liked doing artwork. There was nothing about contact sport that I liked at all. And running track was really fun and I got really good at it. And like I said, I won a lot to the point where I started representing not just the state that I lived in, the high school, but the country. And football was a byproduct because my father loved football. So I played football for him because I wanted to make my dad proud, even though I saw a lot of craziness at home, a lot of alcohol at home, a lot of violence at home, a lot of dad coming home late, a lot of opening up presents late on Christmas morning. It was still my goal to make him proud of me. So I did a little bit of everything. In fact, I played soccer. I played baseball, which my father was my baseball coach when I was a kid. I played football when I was really young. My dad was my football coach. So I grew up kind of in an atmosphere where it was almost like military when it came to being successful, even at a young age.
Okay, did you have siblings growing up? You have a sister, I think, right?
Yes, that's right. I have a sister. Her name is Tammy. She lives in Baltimore, and her and I actually both did track and field. She didn't really like track much. She played a little bit of volleyball. One thing we didn't mess around with though when we were children was what we saw, and that was alcohol. That was something that kind of was forbidden because what we saw it do to even our own home, we didn't want to be a part of.
Okay, so at some point, I think you told me you started to drink. I mean, so when did that happen?
Yeah, believe it or not, as a child, alcohol was probably the last thing I ever wanted to do was drink. There was no way I was going to take any type of pills, and marijuana was just something that I smelled and stunk, and I couldn't understand why people would smoke it. But as my life went on, I think I may have sipped a glass of wine when I was just a young kid because my father and my mother drank at parties around friends. And it really wasn't, honestly, and we're going to skip all the way there, it wasn't even until I got into the NFL when I really started to experience what it was like to drink substantial amounts of alcohol. In fact, it was like one of my first games in my career was against the San Francisco 49ers. And all I had to do was catch a punt in a preseason game. And when I dropped that punt and it rolled into the end zone and San Francisco scored a touchdown to win, my teammates were like, screw it, dude, your career's over with. You might as well go ahead and chill out now and relax. So I started to drink alcohol, tequila. And what I found out when I drank tequila, I was like, whoa.
Calmed you down. Took the
Oh,
pressure off.
you tell me I could just have a drink once in a while and be able to deal with the stresses that I'm around all the time? And so that's when it started, right there in my rookie season.
Wow. So when you were playing high school sports, were there any coaches that you were close with that really encouraged you? You felt that were good role models for you?
Yeah, interesting enough, all my coaches were really good role models. And another thing I have to credit to my father, although it became really tough to even want to be around him, was he made sure that I was involved in sports my entire life. And it was a way to keep me away from the streets, so to speak. My junior high school coach, his name was Mr. Lee, a short little Chinese guy, took me under his wing. And then my high school coach was named Ed Brown, who was like a father to me, man, because he was kind of that normal to me, because he wasn't beating on his wife and he wasn't drinking alcohol and he wasn't staying out late. He was always focused on winning ball games and taking care of the young men around him. And so Ed Brown was like a father to me growing up, especially in high school. I loved him.
Wow, that's great. So when did you start playing football?
When I start,
Yeah.
I started playing when I was 8 or 9 years old. Man. I like it. Again, I was a wussy. So, and that's the reason why I was so good at it. My father made me play, but I didn't like being tackled. So when I got the ball, I
Took off.
all over the place, so I wouldn't get touched, and I started scoring touchdowns.
Wow. Okay, so you must have you played through high school, right?
Yeah, played through high school. I remember Dad used to always pick me up after practice, but sometimes more often than not, he picked me up late, so I kind of stuck around and lifted weights. And he'd come to my ball games, and he wasn't satisfied with 1 or 2 touchdowns. He wanted 4 or 5 touchdowns. So he'd be there, and I could tell he just came from a local tavern, and he put his hand up. I want 5 touchdowns. So I already made 3 or 4. And so I'd go out and make another touchdown. And I'll believe it or not, sometimes I would make another touchdown because not only did it make him proud, but it actually slowed down the craziness that was happening in the house. And again, Mom might be watching this, and I love her to death, but I'm really transparent with my life. Whenever I made touchdowns or whenever I won races, the domestic violence actually was a little bit less. And so I was kind of that hero in the house, and I kind of turned things towards me to take attention off of what was happening in the family dynamic. A lot of people listening maybe know something about that.
That's amazing. So, at what point did you think you were maybe going to play some college football?
When I was in high school, I had a chance to play in one particular ball game. I was a little guy, really fast, and the University of Arizona came out to watch a player on the other team. And my high school coach, Ed Brown, told me that they were there to watch him. But he said, wait until they see you, Vance. So he said, I want you really to shine. So he gave me the ball a few extra times, and I went out there and just showed out, man. And I did a punt. I remember I had a punt, and I only went 10 yards on the punt, but it took me 150 yards to get that 10 yards. So
A lot of east and west running.
I was all over the place. And so the University of Arizona actually came over and talked with me after the game. And so then I started getting invites all over the United States, but I wanted to stay close to home, close to my mom, have some of that Southern fried chicken. So I stayed home and went to the University of Arizona, where I ran track, did artwork, and played football.
Pretty impressive. And I also know that you came pretty close to making the Olympics, right? I mean, you were a really good track athlete. So tell us a bit about that.
Track was my first love, man. Like I said, I've been running since I was young. When I was in college, my first year in college.
Oh, I think we froze.
14.
Oh, we got it.
I was number 14 going into the last jump of the night at the NCAA championships there in Provo, Utah. I lined up. I looked up into the heavens, and I told God this was for you. And when I ran down that runway, I started going in slow motion. And when my foot hit the ground, I was a foot and a half behind the board. And I flew and flew and flew and flew. And I jumped 26 feet, 11 3/4, a foot and a half behind the board. So it would have been a world record. And I beat Carl Lewis that day.
That's amazing.
Woo-hoo!
That's pretty amazing. That's very amazing. So I think you just missed out on the Olympic team, right? You were by one spot. And I know you went to the Pan American Games too, right?
I won the gold medal in the Pan American Games over in Caracas, Venezuela. And I was on the Olympic team only as an alternate. The last jump of the night, actually, the guy beat me by about 1/8 of an inch to get third place. And so then I was deemed to go to the '88 Olympics and possibly win. But in that particular Olympics, I was just the alternate, so I was not able to participate. And by this time in my life, brother, I had not had any alcohol, never smoked marijuana, never chewed Dr. Pill. There was nothing about addiction that had any type of grasp on my life at this time.
Well, so you were a long jumper, right? Is that what you were?
Yeah, I was a long jumper. I was fast and I could jump high and I could jump far. And so that was my claim to fame as a kid.
Wow. Okay. So even through college, when you were playing, you played 4 years at Arizona. Am I right about that?
Played 4 years in Arizona.
Who was the coach back then?
Larry Smith, Coach Larry Smith he was alive back then, and he was an amazing coach. He was tough. He reminded me of my father when I was just a kid because he
Is,
was a real tough guy.
is that the coach that ended up at USC? Did he end up coaching USC?
Yeah, he,
You know how we know that because I told you I went to Michigan, and so of course my very first year at Michigan, we ended up going to play USC in the Rose Bowl, and I think he was the coach of USC.
what a small world. Absolutely.
See, there we go. I knew that. See, not bad for a kid from England who didn't know
But,
much about college football until about 30 years ago.
yeah.
So I think he passed away not that long ago, right? Very recently.
You're right. He did. He died of cancer. It was really a sad moment, and it was really hard for me because all the way from a childhood, I never really got close to anybody. I got close to my coaches, but Ed Brown especially. I never got close enough to anyone really to have any type of a relationship. And again, it came from the underlying issues, things that had happened in my life. So I always had a goal. I always wanted to be great. I always wanted to go to that next level to find happiness, to find peace, to find joy, and find it's being accepted.
Wow. So at what point did you say to yourself, yeah, I'm going to go play some pro football? Did,
Believe it or not, I had a chance to be really good in college as well at football because I scored a lot of touchdowns and again I was really fast and I had some really big plays during my career against some really good teams, number one teams. Notre Dame, I had a good game against them. USC had a good game against them. So Arizona State, and eventually I had a chance to go to the scouting combine in 1985. And that was the year of the wide receivers, man. Even Jerry Rice, who was the number one all-time receiver, was there. And so I was told at the combine, you're deemed to be drafted really low because you're not really a receiver. You're too small to be a running back. But when it comes time to run the 40, kick Jerry Rice's butt, then you'll probably get a really good draft pick. So when they called all the guys up to run the 40-yard dash, I lined up next to Jerry Rice, and the rest was pretty much history. Now, he got drafted first, but I actually ended up getting drafted in the second round because I had a great time running 4.18 the first time and 4.19 the second time in the 40. But that was back when they had the clickers.
okay, well that's still pretty fast. Now I went to college with Desmond Howard, who won the Heisman, and they used to boast at Michigan that he could run a 4.28 40, and they say that was unbelievably quick. So I mean, we're talking, maybe I guess 10 years before that. So I mean,
Yep.
take away the clicker, you're probably running around that time, if not a little bit quicker, which is unbelievable. It's a world record time.
Yeah, world record time. I was one of the fastest coming out in the NFL draft at the time.
That's impressive. Wow. So I mean, when you were in college, was there any teams that you just look back and say, well, I love playing against that team? I mean, was there one team you just loved to go? I mean, even whether it was on the road or at home, you just loved playing against them because you played well or the crowd or whatever it was.
Well, in college, again, I always looked for the games because I was always the underdog. I always looked for the games that I could shine, and that was like a USC who was rated number one in college at the time, or Notre Dame when we beat them when they were rated number one when I was in college at the time. It was just always that team to beat where I knew that I could shine and look better than one of the best players on their team. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Are there any players you look at that you maybe were on the opposing side and you said, wow, that guy's unbelievable, that you just looked at and said, wow, incredible?
Marcus Allen, dude. When I played when I was in college and we played against USC, and I'm old enough now so I can let this cat out of the bag. So I was on the sideline and I was actually a backup running back at the time. And we were playing against USC, and Marcus Allen got the ball, and he spun around and made a left, and he turned up the middle of the field. And I was actually cheering for that guy, man, because I was a Marcus Allen fan growing up. And so even though they beat us, it was awesome to see someone that I kind of idolized. And the other ball player that I really loved was John Elway. That guy was amazing in college. He played at Stanford, and we always thought they were kind of the hoity-toity guys, the rich boys. But there was something about his arm and what he did on the football field that was magic. And I actually had hopes and dreams one day to catch one of his passes.
Oh, I think we're a little frozen here.
I'm
Oh, there we
frozen.
go. Okay, we unfroze. All right, we froze. Okay, we're back. Well, so when you're going through the draft process, was there any one team you said, yeah, that's who I want to play for? Because nowadays you see some of the players are like, oh, I'd never go. Well, I think even Elway said he wasn't going to play for a certain team, and I don't remember who it was off the top of my head, but you guys say, I'm not playing for that team, or I think it was Cleveland, may have been Cleveland. He said, I'm not playing for that team.
No,
And
he
then other
didn't.
guys are like, listen, I grew up in the projects, man. I'd be happy just to get drafted and get paid to do this.
Yeah, John didn't want to play for the Indianapolis Colts. He didn't want
That's what it was. Okay, I couldn't remember.
to play there. No, I always wanted to be. I wanted to be a Bronco, but I didn't know anything about Denver, Colorado, except that it snowed a lot, and there was Cowboys and Indians and horses. So, and I really, I thought about being a Raider. In fact, the Raiders called before the Broncos called me. The Raiders called me. Al Davis, the old late Al Davis, called and said, you want to be a Los Angeles Raider? And I was actually pretty excited about it for 1 second. But then I saw on television that the Broncos were trading up to the second pick in the second round to draft speedster Denver Broncos Vance Johnson. So I was drafted by the Broncos. The rest was history. My sister and my mother actually went out and bought me some clothes because I looked pretty stupid back at the time. I was kind of corny. And I took off to Denver, Colorado, where Shanahan, who at the time was only a wide receiver coach, who ended up eventually after Dan Reeves become the head coach and then won the Super Bowl.
Wow. So when you went from the college to the pros, like, what's the big difference?
The big difference from college to pros is that pros are the best of the best. In college, you have a lot of guys who were really hard workers who, because of their work ethic growing up, they were able to get to college and be good ball players. But once you get to the NFL, man, I mean, you're in the league now. And so you're going to be part of the elite. And the other thing about being in the NFL is, and I used to have a saying to every coach, every player. They say, "How you doing, DJ?" I'd say, "Just trying to make the team, coach." Because every day, man, you had to go out there and prove your worth and your value to the team because you were only as good as your last catch. And that's the reason why NFL stands for not
for long. Actually, don't you? So you have another. I wrote down another phrase that you said for NFL. What was that?
I have so many phrases, brother. You got to pull that one up for me.
I'll have to find it in my notes. But I remember I wrote something down that you said something about NFL. I'll find it as I go through my notes here. But
yeah, NFL was the elite, and it was really, really easy for me to be under the peer pressure in the league. What's really interesting when we talk about this, and if you have any young men that are watching, aspiring to be great at sports, they're only hearing right now the highlights, the good things. But when you get to the dark and the underlying issues, man, that's where real life is lived at. You know what I mean? Because just talking to you, I'm reminded of all these good times, all the way from my childhood. And so everything kind of overlapped what was causing this eventual crash in my life. And so I kind of like the storyline, the way we're doing this thing, man. Thank you. You're an artist at this.
I'm trying.
It sounds like right now.
I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying. I saw these years in the courtroom. You know what it reminds me of? And I spoke to Andre Brown last week, who played at the Canes. And here's another interesting dynamic. My very first college game, Michigan played Miami the week, and it was my first. I didn't even know anything about college football. It was a bunch of guys throwing a piece of leather. I mean, it looked a bit like rugby. That was it. I wasn't really excited about it. But the week before, apparently, we lost to the school that I found out later was called Notre Dame, and then we played Miami. So 7 minutes before the end, we're up 30-14. I left the stadium. By the time I got home, it was all over. The Canes came back. They beat us 31-30. And when I spoke to Andre last week, it turned out he was playing in that game.
Was he really?
Yeah, Andre played in that game.
And
when I was speaking to him, I started to think about that movie. You ever saw that movie, Everybody's All-American, with Dennis Quaid? It's all about a guy that played football at LSU.
Okay.
Plays there 4 years, and he ends up playing for the Broncos, funny enough.
Oh.
And then after he gets done playing, he almost can't let go of it. And he's still living in the 1950s and 60s as an athlete.
Wow.
And becomes a terrible alcoholic. And it ends up ruining he almost loses his entire life. And when I spoke to Andre, I thought about it. And now I'm hearing you, and I'm like, man, you got to see that movie. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal movie.
I gotta watch that movie because that's my story, man.
Everybody's All-American. It's a great movie, and I love it. It was phenomenal. His name was, he played a character called Gavin Gray, and they called him the Gray Ghost.
Wow.
Amazing movie. Anyway, but, it was interesting, because, you talk about the highs, and I guess, as people that never played professional sports, we sort of see all the, the money and the women and the jewelry and the cars, but we don't realize, that you guys eat, sleep, and breathe the same way the rest of us do, and whatever issues you have to deal with, you still have to deal with them, even though you got to perform on a Sunday.
It's ironic that you said that because I did a post just a few days ago, and I talked about Elvis Presley, and I saw an interview from his brother saying how he really died. He didn't die because of his fame, man. He died because, he didn't die because of the drugs or alcohol. He died because of the fame. So it's backwards. He died because of the fame. And with that fame comes a lot of pressure. And so being normal, just like everybody else, you try to figure out what can I do to impress everyone again tomorrow? Because once the lights go out, man, you don't feel the same about yourself. And so what I did was, because I couldn't cope with life, I couldn't navigate relationships, I drank and I took prescription pills. So I did anything I could so that I could be ready for the next day. And because I wasn't good enough or I didn't feel whole inside. And so I always made sure I numbed myself out because my underlying issues is I was unhappy. Even though I was having a great time and with a great smile out there on the football field. I even did ballet when I played football, man. I was in the ballet, I did the orchestra, I did everything that would keep me in the limelight and keep me in front of the camera, and including being tons of relationships, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about the whole addiction, because I know you said you dropped a punt and the 49ers scored in that, and then you had a little tequila that made you feel better. So tell us how that progressed. I mean, you talked about pills and stuff, but I mean, how do you go from a guy that really wasn't drinking, wasn't touching drugs to into a coma at some point?
Absolutely. Well, so this is how it progressed with me. So I started out by drinking a little bit of alcohol. And then I noticed when I started taking pills, opioids or pain pills or something because of the injuries, when I mixed the alcohol along with the pill, it made me really brave. So now I wasn't afraid to talk to girls when I went out in the public. So here I am having a good time when I'm in public. I'm drinking. I'm taking a couple pills to make myself feel a little bit more brave and able to get out there and do a little something. I meet a young lady, and I end up having sex with her and find out that she's pregnant. She ends up leaving the state because she was sleeping with somebody else, and I didn't know this at the time, but she told me she was going to have an abortion, and I ended up going out there and marrying her because I didn't want her to kill our kid. To cope with that, I actually got really drunk, fell off of a wall. And so what I noticed then was I was always drinking on the weekends or during the off season, especially, kind of just to keep myself kind of occupied with not being happy with what was happening in my personal life. So prescription pills and alcohol was kind of my means to do that. Then I couldn't navigate relationships because all I saw was my father be a jerk to my mom and abuse my mother. So I didn't know how to love anybody. And I thought they had to love me back. And so then when my girlfriend at the time, who I had a kid with, I found out was having sex with other guys, now I'm pissed off. So I figured now I'm going to get higher, drink more, date more, have sex more, marry more people because I'm going to hurt somebody. So literally I would come to my house with the young lady I'm married to and tell her I'm leaving you for this girl right here because you broke my heart. And then, so that relationship wouldn't work out, so I go cheat on her. And that relationship wouldn't work out, so I go get married again because maybe this one will because I'm her friend. So you see how this dynamic is starting to play itself out?
So it started a snowball.
This high level because I was making touchdowns, man. And I was important to this, to the community. I was important to the ball game. And so I was skating away with all this use. I'd be driving down the highway going 125, 130 miles an hour. I get pulled over by a cop on a Saturday afternoon, drunk as hell. But he's not going to put me in jail because he tells me, dude, you might win the scoring touchdown tomorrow. I can't tell my kid I put Vance Johnson in jail. Then I'm riding on my motorcycle. I end up crashing. I ended up going down one day. I'm on my Porsche. I'm going 115 miles an hour exactly. I remember. I got hit from behind. I'm drunk. The ambulance comes. The cops come. They strap me down, take me to the hospital. I'm so high when I get inside the hospital, man, that I'm begging the doctor, don't allow the cops to take my blood test because I'm going to get kicked out of the league if it happens. They take me, put me in one of those beds, and they roll me down the hall where they put the bodies in the morgue. This is where they put me at for 5 or 6 hours. That's how I'm getting away with all this chaos happening in my life. I'm drunk on the football field. I'm having sex with women and they're getting pregnant. I see somebody hold up a baby across the fence at a ball game.
You thought it was your kid. You thought it was your kid.
It was my kid, but I never seen a kid before. It was my kid. I saw a child at the ball game that looks just like me, and I have no idea what that guy is doing holding on to that kid. So this is the chaos that I lived in. This is the controlled chaos that I lived in. And so my only way to cope with life was just to use even more because it wasn't like I had a father who could tell me to slow down. It wasn't like I was a real believer in my Christianity to know that there are some morals that I have to live by and standards. So it was just keeping up with whatever lifestyle I was living and trying to cope and manage through the whole thing.
So how many times did you get married? How many?
During my NFL career, I was married 1, 2, 3 times. I think going into my 4th time during my career, because I couldn't cope relationships. I didn't know how to navigate, man.
Wow. And we froze again. Hold on a second. It'll
My
unfreeze.
first wife against
There
the
you go. Sorry, we froze for a second, Vance. Sorry, I lost the last bit.
Yeah. When my first marriage ended up because the domestic issues. I just really couldn't cope in a relationship. And I ended up pushing her against the door, man. I got in a lot of trouble from that. And then I got this stigmatized thing about, being abusive, which honestly, I love standing out and talking about it because I grew up around it and I didn't know any other way to navigate relationships other than to be a force. And so I got married 3 times, I think a 4th time by the time I was going to leave the NFL.
Wow.
Three
So
Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowls. In fact, these are the rings right here. 3 Super Bowls. I come back home from a Super Bowl. I sit up in my closet and wonder what was that all about, because there was nothing that was amazing about it. There was nothing that was fulfilling about it. And so I sit in my closet. I'd be drunk as hell. I'd be smoking weed and taking some pills and trying to kill myself, because there was nothing with fame. There was nothing with going to the Super Bowl that was what I thought it would be when I was a little kid.
wow. So it's staggering. It's staggering to hear that. It really is. It's unbelievable. So with all the testing they do in the NFL, how were you getting away with not failing any of the drug tests?
That was the easiest thing possible, man. See, people think that just because they put up this warning and they put all these different ads in the paper and they talk about how we're testing for steroids or we're testing for drugs. Back then, especially, they only tested one time during the season. That was during preseason. You go get tested and you come up clean, and then the rest of the year you can have a good time. That's how we got away with it.
And were you able to still work out and stuff? Because Andre tells us that even though he was doing all kinds of crazy drugs, he was still working out. He never missed a workout or a practice, and he was playing wasted.
I never missed workout, practice, or anything. I play football. I play in the games drunk most of the time, at least until halftime. I worked out all the time because I was vigorous about it. But there was something about alcohol or using that you felt like you had control, that you didn't think you were an addict, because you were literally living in a life where you were making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. You were showing up at every event. You were signing autographs. You were always on time. There was something about using in that atmosphere, but still being in control of your life, that you thought that there was no problem. Just like the guys are doing right now, man. There's nothing different, except it's still hidden, if that makes any sense.
Wow, unbelievable. So how long did you end up playing in the NFL for?
I played in the NFL for 10 years, man. 10 years. I actually walked away from the game because I had been married too many times and I was paying so much in child support that I woke up one morning and decided I couldn't play anymore. It wasn't about anything else except for I was done playing the sport because there was no more fulfillment at all in the game. And so I walked away from the game. And okay. I remember my last season, my then I think 3rd or 4th wife at the time, when I came home and told her I was going to retire, she had my bag sitting at the door saying, "Dude, done with you, man. If you're not playing football anymore, that means there's no more checks. That means it's over with. Bye-bye."
And it was bye-bye.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so tell us about life after football. What did you do?
Well, life after football, I moved to the northern part of Colorado. I thought I'd slow my life down a little bit. I started to go to church more, and I started dating a little bit less. I started trying to get serious about relationships, which again, I still had no way of navigating. I had some people that were friends of mine, took me under their wing, and I had a radio show. And I kind of just, lived off of my fame. And people would sign me up to do autographs. That would bring in the checks. I started my own businesses. I opened up a warehouse business. I started a trucking company. I started a mortgage company. So I did a lot because of my name. But I still was a functional alcoholic and a functional user, except it got to the point where I started using these pills and my body started to break down a little bit. And I ended up taking so many pills sometimes, brother, that I would be in the bathroom, get ready to drop about 400 or 500 milligrams of Seroquel. And I'd laugh and say, I wonder how long it would take to get to my bed before I pass out. And I would literally sometimes only had 10 steps to go. I'd wake up 12, 14 hours later next to the bed because I didn't make it to the bed. Then I'd take prescription pills because of my depression. Then I would take my blood pressure medication. Then I take some Xanax or something to make me feel a little better. Then sometimes, like I said, at nighttime, I take another pill. So it was still navigating through life by taking drugs to wake up, taking drugs to cope during the day, taking drugs to go to sleep, and look forward to doing it in the morning. Oh, I drink in the middle of the night if I woke up. That was how I lived my life after my career was over with.
Wow. So were you single at that point? You living alone?
Oh, by that time, brother, I was married 5 times. So here we go. Because I kept getting in and out of relationships. One time I went to dinner with some friends, and there was 14 of us sitting at the table. Really, really rich people. One of my banker friends looks over and says, "There's only 2 people at the table not married." It was me and the girl I was dating for the night. He said, "Well, why don't we have a wedding? It'd be 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. We could go down the street to a friend's house that was a judge and not wake him up at 3 o'clock in the morning and have a wedding on the doorstep." And I wake up in the morning married.
Yeah. That's not a recipe for a good start. I got to tell you, I was married once, and I don't know if it was that much longer, but that's a different story.
You might need to take this interview to the next week, dude.
I might need to. My ex-wife is probably watching this, saying, "Yeah, you were an asshole too, just like this guy over here." So,
dude, hey, you know what? Let me preface something.
you got to own your own stuff. You know, you do.
I do it, and I want to preface this, man. I'm not trying. This is the first time.
So, you know what? We froze right as you said that, and I lost it. I'm sorry, Vance.
I said I'm not trying to glorify what I've done in my past.
No, and I don't think anybody would ever think that. I think that I think you're being very humble, and I'm almost a bit emotional about it, to be honest with you, because I know we talked about this before, and it sort of didn't get to this level. But I appreciate that you shared it with us. Wow, even I'm starting to sweat. Anyway, let's try and move on because I know there's a few other things I want to talk to you about. So I know at some point you lost your son, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, when I was on the western slope of Colorado, I had a restaurant and I had a mortgage company. And my oldest son started to come up and spend some time with me. And he would come over and tell me how proud he was to be my son and how he wanted to grow up to be like me. He was going to college and playing football. He ended up blowing the engine out of his car. And so he tried to reach out to me because I let him borrow my Porsche once in a while, but he couldn't reach me at this time. And so he took his motorcycle across the mountain to go see his mother. And on his way back home from giving his girlfriend a kiss goodnight, he ended up getting run over by a drunk driver and killed him.
Wow.
I got a call the very next morning from my ex-wife, and it was the darkest day of my life, man, because after that there was no reason to smile anymore. And so for the next 2 years, dude, all I did was drink, have sex with different women, and do drugs. And I ended up using so much at the time. And my parents came to my restaurant because I had my own restaurant. And mom and dad took over the restaurant because they were good parents, still are. And they did a hostile takeover over my restaurant because I was always high or drunk, man. I'd be throwing up blood all over the place. And my mother would try to protect me. My father, I started to get really angry because I started to just really look at my life and how it had fallen apart. And so I blamed my dad for everything that happened to me. And I would pick him up, man, and scream at him, and I'd yell at him, and I'd throw him on the ground in front of the customers. I yelled at my mom, and I blamed her for staying with such a freaking jerk when I was a kid. And that was the reason why I was so screwed up. So then I started playing the blame game. They would just cry and tell me that they were sorry that I felt the way I felt. And after a couple of years, man, I ended up using myself into a coma.
So what year was that now we're talking about that you ended up in a coma?
2011, 12.
Yeah, I meant to get that photo off. So I guess there's a photo off online of you basically lying there in a hospital bed.
Yeah, while we're talking, I can actually pull it up and probably show it on here.
You know, I have to tell you, Vance, when I saw that. So I lost my father beginning of 17, but my father spent 3 weeks in a coma, about 21 or 22 days. And when I saw the photo off of you, I thought of my own father. Tubes coming out of everywhere, machines beeping, his bed sores, tubes up there, tubes out there. And I just remember when he finally woke up. I mean, we thought he'd had a stroke. It was just a shell.
I'm surprised.
When I saw that photo of you, I thought of my father.
Yeah, I ended up using myself into a coma for 28 days actually, and they didn't think I was going to make it. My sister came in and she took a deathbed picture of me, and I woke up and I had these tubes hanging out of me, man. And I started looking up into the sky, and I had a tube hanging out of my penis, and I tried to pull the dang thing out. I had tubes hanging out of my body everywhere, and I started having these weird things would happen to me while I was in that bed, man. I'd see these dark shadows walking around in my bedroom, and I started realizing that there was something else on the side of this life that we live in. I started having these out-of-body experiences where I was traveling around the hospital, and I was talking to people, but they wouldn't talk back to me, and I wasn't breathing. And then I'd go back into my room, and I could actually tell you to this day, even though I never traveled to another floor, exactly what was on the floor. And then when I left that place, man, I went to my parents' house by the grace of God. My mother and father still loved me and allowed me to stay at their home. And that's when I stayed clean for a short time, probably 3 or 4 months. And I went and I drank a Mike's Hard Lemonade again, and I was off to the races. And I started drinking so much, again, that I knew that there was nothing in my power that I could do to fight against this addiction that I now knew that I had. My then 7th ex-wife reached out to the NFL and begged the NFL to help me because I was killing myself. They called another former athlete, Randy Grimes, from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He reached out to me, and the NFL said they would pay for me to get treatment because by this time it was during the bust of 2006, and so I lost everything. And they paid for me to go to treatment. And I flew out to treatment knowing that the only thing I could do was obey this voice that I heard because I'm a Christian man, and I believed that God had a journey for me. And I knew that he was going to be the one to help me get out of this world I lived in. And treatment was where I had to go to get that. And so I went to treatment with a Bible and prayer. And I started to listen to the stories of all these young men and listening to their stories of their addiction and their underlying issues that they grew up in and around. And I started to understand that the only purpose I played football for was to have a mighty fall so I could have a mighty voice, so I can tell people that I went from not using any drugs or alcohol to being one of the worst freaking users in the world, to a point that I used myself into a coma. And if God could get me to treatment and free me from this and know that this is my journey to tell you if you're suffering, you could get out of this thing, then that's what I'll do for the rest of my life. Because I owe my son who is dead. And I owe every one of these kids that are out there that are suffering a voice. You like professional athletes? Listen to me, because I'm going to tell you the truth. You want to get clean? You want to get sober? You want to find what real life is about? And I'm going to have to do this because I'm live and you can't stop me. I'm a Christian, and my Savior is Jesus Christ. And so I'm going to encourage all of you to get on your knees and find out who God really is, because there's a power out there that's greater than all of us. And there's nothing on this earth that's going to keep you clean. Nothing at all. Of course, there are many journeys of sobriety. You can have this journey, this journey, this journey, and you can be a non-believer and stay sober. But mine comes with sobriety, and it comes with salvation. And that's what I'm here to teach. And I didn't tell you this yesterday, brother Mark, so you can't turn me off.
I don't want to.
I
don't want to. I'm glad I turned you on. This is great. Are you kidding me?
All right, brother.
People hear this from you, are like, they realize maybe there's a little hope out there, you know? And that's what we do this, right? While we're having this conversation. So maybe we can inspire somebody. If we can save one person, it's a beautiful thing.
One person, man, absolutely.
That's why I come to work every day, to save people's kids.
That's exactly right, and that's why. And let's get into this. And I know you probably running short on time, but
no, I got as much time as you need. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
In this new life of sobriety, man, I've had a chance to be blessed to work for the most amazing company now. It's called Futures Recovery Healthcare down in West Palm Beach. It's actually up near Tequesta, Florida. And
it's a beautiful facility. If anybody hasn't seen Futures, they should go and see it. It's really unbelievable, state of the art, magnificent, and the people that work there are first class.
Futures is unbelievable, man. And the reason why I'm a part of their family is, man, because they are like a world-class, world championship team of professionals who have heart, who love people, and who want people to get clean. Even all the way to the owners of this facility, man. I'm talking the owner, who is a very wealthy man, cares more about people getting clean than he cares about freaking money. It's about people getting sober and getting clean. Of course, you have to have insurance to get in any facility. But this place that I work for, they care so much. And that's the reason why they allow me to go around this country and to inspire people, man, to get the help that they need. And so that's another reason why I'm glad I'm on your show, because I can talk about futures. I can talk about what we offer there, the pain management.
Tell us about it. I mean,
different.
listen, this is, we want to hear about what you, I want to hear about what you do. I want to hear about futures. I mean, tell us all about it, because, this is what it's about.
Many facilities that you go get treatment at, because, and I'm going to be a freaking whistleblower right now, many facilities that you go get treatment at, all they're going to do is take your damn money, you're going to sit there, you're going to freaking smoke cigarettes, and you're going to tell war stories. Then you're going to have a couple classes where you're going to sit inside of a group, and then you can go back outside and chill again. You're going to stay inside of a wall for 28, 30, 45 days, but you're not going to get any tools. Then you're going to leave out there, and you're going to damn relapse, because nobody cares about what happens to you when you leave. Now, if you do your research, find a facility that's going to be accredited, that you're going to be able to go into, that's going to have the right therapist to teach you the right things, to be able to peel back the onion, so to speak, to find out the underlying issues, the causes why you use in the first place. Talk about mental health. I've got mental health issues. Talk about pain management. I have pain management issues because I use drugs because of the injuries that I had. You have to get the professionals that know how to peel back the onion and show you the reasons why you use. And then you're only going to get a chance to coin in. You don't coin out at futures, because staying sober is a lifetime journey. It's not just a short-term thing. When you leave treatment, that's when the work starts.
That's when it happens.
Plan. You have to have a plan that you're going to do every single day to stay clean. Every day.
I'm glad that you said that, because I get people that come to me and the mom and dad say, well, if I send my kid to treatment for 30 days, are they clean? Are they in recovery? I'm like, you know what? I said, treatment is the beginning. That's the step. I said, I can send you to any treatment center to get clean. It's what you do afterwards. If you want your kid to stay clean for the rest of his or her life, it's what they do afterwards that counts, not what they did for 30 days. That's where the journey begins, not the end. That's when it starts.
Involved, man. You got to have parents that are involved in their kids' lives if you're a young kid. And if you're a father or a mother, man, you got to go back and quit being so damn selfish and think it's about you. It's not about you anymore. It's about somebody else. And every person that gets sober, guess what? It's a damn gift. Because now you have a chance to be clean, so you can go show somebody else how to do it. Don't feel woe is me when you get clean, and now I'm some bad guy. You need to go out there and use your ability to stay sober in the path you've chosen to stay sober, so you can show somebody how to do it themselves. And that's what I'm here to do for the rest of my life, man. I will die showing someone how to stay clean.
So tell us about it. Tell us about what does a typical day or a week, Vance Johnson look like? Tell me what you're doing with yourself these days?
Well, what I do for Futures is I travel around and I talk about our programs. I talk about the pain management programs. I talk about our therapists and what we offer for people who are suffering with dual diagnosis, because there's always an underlying issue that's causing us to hurt. Well, I talk about our detox, because we have someone that's going to get you detox. We have a doctor actually that's on staff, and we're 24 hours a day making sure that people come back off of the drugs and out of the drugs healthy, and not to a point where they're jonesing so bad that they want to leave. So I go around and I talk about that. And the other thing I do is I go around and I inspire people, especially kids, high school kids, college kids, to talk with them about the pitfalls of addiction, thinking that they can find these different ways to make themselves feel good by using drugs. I talk about the dangers of social media, and I talk about the dangers of Snapchat and Twitter and Instagram and all this crap where people are living these fake lives, and then the only way they know how to cope, because it's not real, that picture they're taking of themselves when they do their selfie, that it's nothing about that, man. All that stuff is fake. I go out and inspire moms and dads to be involved in their children's lives. I really tell my Christian brothers and sisters who believe, if you read your dang Bible, you're going to see that God gave you the ability to stay clean. He gave you the power within so that you can fight against these demons that are trying to kill you and destroy your families. I go out and I tell the doctors, you got to do something different than just prescribing these pills just so you can push click, click, click and get a paycheck yourself from the insurance company. You have to care about these people. You have to care about your clients that you have coming in. I go out and talk to the college coaches and say, listen, get involved in that kid's life, man. Let them know what's happening in life. Don't just use them up and send them out there so they can go and try to self-medicate. I go try to inspire everyone that we have to bring this thing back in. We have to be transparent. We have to talk about the problem that's happening. I got a guy, man, that I'm going to call when I get off the phone with you. His 17-year-old, this freaking OD just a couple of days ago, man. Just a couple of days ago, his daughter died. And he called me at 5:30 in the morning. He was crying. And he asked me to be the voice for his daughter. And I'm going to be honest with you. I met with Governor Christie. Love you, Governor Christie. But, dude, you told me you were going to help me open up a facility so that we can have people that have no money get a chance to go to treatment with them. They don't have any freaking money. There's something that has to be done on all different levels. because there are rich people, there are poor people, there are people who don't have a clue what they have that need to get the help that they need. I know I'm just spreading all over the place here, man.
No, it's great. It's great.
It's be done, because sometimes I feel like a damn fraud because I can't help everybody. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and you know, and you know, when I sit with a family and we decide, hey, listen, your kids needs treatment, you know, one of the other conversations we have to have is how's it getting paid for, right? Do you have the ability to pay? And nobody has a bank account that's only big enough to pay for a couple of months of treatment. So,
right.
So does their insurance cover it? If they even have insurance, and if they don't have insurance, doing. I mean, if they don't have insurance, where do we send them? And I've had this discussion with. We have a really great state attorney down here, Dave Ehrenberg, who I like personally, and who's done a lot to get rid of the bad actors. But he's somewhat restricted in what he can do because we just don't have the money. And you know, look, I mean, politics aside, I have to like President Trump for whatever reason, right? Some of my leftist friends might not agree with me, but
I like him too.
I like him to be. You know, he's talking about executing drug dealers. I'm like, great. So you're going to execute drug dealers. What about these kids who are already addicted? Why don't you put some money where your mouth is? We need money. You got to make it available to everybody. Until that happens, it's only going to get worse.
Treatment has to be available for everybody.
Everybody.
Exactly.
Everybody.
And again, they have to do their research with the type of facility that they're going to send their families to. And that's the reason why I represent Futures. There are lots of accredited facilities out there, but you got to find them and you got to do your research. Just don't go to somewhere just because they have a name that you heard about. Don't just go call a phone number because you got some fake doctor guy sitting on there with a telescope, office, whatever they call that freaking thing around his neck saying,
My brother went to medical school with that guy, by the way, and laughed when he saw the commercial.
It's a joke, man. It's a joke, right? So
a joke.
Call me and call him. That guy right there that you were looking at on the other side of the screen, call one of us and we're going to get you in the right place. And my place right now is Futures, and that's what I'm telling you to go to.
Yeah, listen, let me tell you something. I spent a lot of time, I was at a luncheon today. I spent a lot of time meeting folks in the treatment industry for two reasons. One, they're a whole lot more fun than the lawyers. They're a lot. I get a ton of hugs and kisses when I go to an event, a treatment center event. I don't get any when I go to a lawyer's event. And two, because I want to know who the players are, right? And I'll tell you, I think the treatment industry has, although we've got a bad rap down here, there's a lot of people who really, really care about helping people. And I see them every day in the treatment, working hard. And the good news is we're getting rid of a lot of the bad actors because they're either going broke or getting arrested.
That's exactly, and that's the good thing, man. I'm glad these people are freaking getting arrested and they're going broke and they're going out of business. And that's the reason why I love working where I work at. I even told my friend, who's the owner, that I'd be willing to move back to Florida, man, just so I could be down there and just start inspiring people all over Florida to get into treatment. But I think God has a journey for me to go all over this country, and we're getting the word out there. Accredited facilities is a must, and they need more because people need to get the help.
No question about it. One thing I wanted to talk to you about is, and I saw this online, was you're involved with the theater group. Tell me about that. Because that's really, really powerful stuff.
I grew up around an atmosphere that was explosive, right? And a lot of us who suffer with addictions and underlying issues, we go to treatment, man, and we just sit around and listen to people talk. It's not doing a whole lot for us, especially when you got some angry black man who grew up in an atmosphere where he saw his mom's butt get kicked all the time. He saw his dad using. He saw people get shot. He saw people get beat up. He needs to have a little extra so he can know how to cope with life when he gets back home. So let's say you have a wife when you go back home, and she's going to be like, what, you go there to that posh place, smoke cigarettes, and just talk? When actually they need to have some type of trauma that they go through or work at, that they can have a point where here I am, the addict, and I'm suffering with something, and I need to be able to talk about this. And I need someone on the other side to play the role of the person that I'm pissed off at, that I'm using at. So here I am, I'm using at this person right here. I want to be able to talk to them the way I talk with them when I'm upset and pissed off, and I'm getting ready to go freaking take this shot or take this pill. And the other person needs to know how to deal with them on a level that's going to calm them down, that's going to be loving and encouraging, and also understanding so that you can communicate. And then you need to switch the roles. And now you become the person in the psychodrama course, you become the person that is not the addict as the addict, but you're not the addict now. And then you have the other person's perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you have the whole family dynamic. Everybody needs to know where the other person's coming from. The addict is coming from somewhere. The person that is supporting the addict is coming from somewhere. They need to switch roles sometimes so they can kind of see what the other person's going through. Quit making it about me, and make it about them, if that makes any sense.
It does. And you know what? I'm going to ask you a couple other questions because that sort of just leaves me into some things, and I'm having thoughts as as I talk to you. But, sometimes when I sit with a mom and dad, I have like one parent says, that's it. They're out the house. Get rid of them. The other parent says, no, I don't want to do that. We at least have to, I don't want to take away. I don't want to do any of this stuff. And I'm like, well, listen, you need to take both those off the table because the goal here is to get your kid in treatment, and neither one of those things gets your kid there. So, I mean, how do you have that conversation with parents? Because I'm sure that you see that all the time, right? I mean, tough sometimes to get parents on the same page.
I do, and
it's not because they're bad. It's just they don't understand the dynamics of the situation.
That's right. Sometimes I'm asked to do interventions as well, and which I would really encourage when you have someone that can go into the family and be able to see it from a whole different perspective, and that way they can kind of see and assess where's the addict coming from, where is the father coming from that wants to kick the kid out of the house, and where's the mother coming from where she doesn't want to bury her son because she has friends already who lost their child. So when you come in and you talk with the family and you talk to the child, sometimes you got to separate them because there's so much craziness going on over here that the kid, all they want to do is just leave and use, right? So you need to calm the parents down and try to bring them to an understanding of what the kid might be going through. Talk about what the kid may have saw as a child growing up. Talk about, the peer pressures that they're going on. So change the subject, man, right? Not the, you're a piece of shit. I want you to get the hell out of my house. But literally, hey, son, I love you. And we can't keep supporting you with this. What can we do to help you out of this problem, right? Because something has to change. Trust me, I believe that there's nothing you're going to be able to do to the person that's suffering until they're ready to get help. Nothing. But you can change the tone so you can get an understanding on what the real core problem is so that now we can go get a professional that can help and guide us. And that's the reason why I love what you're doing, man. You're not just saying these people, you actually care about them.
I really do. And I told you, I've been a lawyer 24 years. I think for the first 21, with the exception of when I was prosecutor for 5 years, I was lost. And we sort of reminisced about how many cars we've all had and the women we chased and all the crazy stuff and how empty we both felt until we found something that really motivated us. I know for me, getting up and helping people is really, really important to me. And there are days where I'm inundated with calls and I'm like, oh my God, a head's going to explode.
Yeah.
But it gets me motivated every day. And so every day I figure out how else can I reach people? So when I'm putting together like a marketing plan, my goal is how many more people can I reach so that some other people know that there's a solution out there to the problem they're having.
Right.
I don't think about it in dollars and cents. I think about how many people can I help because I know that translates into money. But that's not what my mind is. If I help more people, my business will grow and then I can help more people.
And let me toot your horn, man, because I had a chance to talk with this guy, and I have great discernment over people, and I know freaking frauds. This guy is not a fraud. This guy talked to me yesterday for almost an hour, and he didn't talk about money. He didn't talk about how he can get another client so he can make more money. He didn't talk about ways to take money from the insurance company. He talked about leaving tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and you were probably a millionaire one time in your life. And even if not, you were still very wealthy.
I was.
Only having fulfillment by helping people. I heard that in you, man, because if you were a liar, I never would have done this show with you. I could tell that you are the freaking real deal. And that's why I told you at the end of our conversation yesterday, we got to do this thing together, man. Hey, we got to do this together.
I'm going to get you, me, and Daryl together. That's what I'm going to do.
Do it.
I told Kim I want to get the three of us together. I'm going up to see him next week. I can't wait to meet him in person. I saw him at the Sud Talks. He was quite unbelievable. So, frozen again. So listen, before we depart, if families want to reach out to you, how do they do that? How do they get a hold of you? How do they get in contact with Futures?
Yeah, let me tell you how to get a hold of Futures, because you can always get a hold of me through Futures, because I'm their spokesperson, and they've done so much for me and my family to put me back on track, to allow me to have this voice to go out and share hope to people. If you'll go to www.futuresofpalmbeach.com, that's www.futuresofpalmbeach.com. Go onto our website. You can call our 800 number and ask to talk to me, because they'll reach out to me and let me know someone's trying to get a hold of me. Or you can go to my Vance Inspires page. So www.vanceinspires.com. If you go to that page, you'll also be able to have a link that you can get the Futures. You can contact me. I do speaking engagements. I love going out and speaking all over the country to motivate people to get help. This is all I do. I'm starting to do a little bit more interventions by Futures allowing me to get more involved in that. The only interventions I've done so far have been 2 Futures, and I would have to talk with them if I had to go somewhere else. But please reach out to me. In fact, and this is a secret, but I'm going to tell you right here live, if you go push that call button on my Vance Johnson page, you'll actually get my cell phone.
Yeah, what is the Facebook page that you sent me to? What's your Facebook page? Because I know you have a personal page, but what's the business page?
Vance Johnson and Vance Johnson athlete, and I'm really transparent. Everything that you hear me talk about right now is what I talk about on my page, and I'm going to show it to you real quick if I can, brother. That way people will know how to find me. If you go to that right there, Vance Johnson, Vance Inspires, and then if you keep looking, you and I are on there somewhere talking, aren't we?
Yeah, we're there somewhere. There we are. Oh damn, I got old. You know, I found the toll-free number, and I've got it. So I have Kim Coslow's number here, but I've got the company main number too. So it's if you want to get a hold of Futures, their toll-free number is 877-399-4107. That's 877-399-4107. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of a plug, and then we'll sign off. So you guys can find me on the web, drug and alcohol attorneys with an S.com. That's drug and alcohol attorneys.com. Or you can email me, Mark, M-A-R-K, at drugandalcoholattorneys.com. Or you can even call us, 561-419-6095. That's 561-419-6095. Wow. Oh, my goodness me. I'm sweating through it.
More time, too, that way, because if you want to get a hold of the Futures, and I don't have the 800 number in front of me, but if you call 908-399-1943, that's 908-399-1943. If I don't answer right away, it's because so many people are calling, but I'll make sure I return your call.
Wow. Hey, Vance, thank you. I'm really humbled. I must be honest with you. I'm really humbled by what you shared with us. I know you're going to motivate a lot of people, and oh my God.
I'm honored, man. I'm honored. You know, I pawned these rings before, and I'm only showing them now because I'm able to.
What are the other two rings that you have there?
This ring right here actually was the championship that Peyton Manning just won. So, being a former Denver Bronco, this was my gift to me for being sober for 4 years. And this ring right here actually was 1997, where I would have actually probably been a backup to Rod Smith. I ended up getting myself that one too because I am from a Bronco and I shouldn't retire. I should have played in that game. And these were the three that I played in. I pawned these for drugs, alcohol, and divorces. And I was blessed enough to get them back. And I'm back in the game again. They don't really mean anything to me now, except for they allow people to let me in so they can take a picture, and I can show you how to get help.
Well, so I do want to know one thing before I let you go, because you said that when you played in college, you saw John Elway and you thought he was great. Yes. So what was he like to play with? Because Andre told me he played with Marino, which I thought was pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, John was.
Elway had to be unbelievable.
John was probably, I would imagine now, because of Brady, John's the number 2 all-time quarterback in the history of the league. Because he is such a winner, man. The guy hated losing. He didn't want to do anything but win. And he would come into the game, we'd be behind, and he would say in the huddle, we're going to win this so-and-so ball game. And he called plays in the dirt, and we'd march down the field and win. And he threw the ball so hard, that's the reason why my finger is like this, if you guys can see it. He tore my fingers up, dude. That guy made my fingers look like 90-year-old fingers because he threw the ball so hard. He's a great – it was awesome playing with all those guys. Shannon Sharp, all those guys were just amazing.
Well, do you still keep in contact with any of those guys?
You know, I do. In fact, because it's different now, because I'm clean and sober, man. So they see a whole different Vance. And some of them are suffering with some addictions. I reach out to them all the time. And many of them, though, that because we played so long, we're just a family, man. It's a fraternity. I love those guys. And I go to the Super Bowl every year, too, to kind of share hope and talk a little bit about addiction and professional sports. So I'm always going to be a part of the game.
Wow. And, you know, I'm glad that you mentioned Randy, because I met Randy by chance. And when I first opened up my office, I spent a couple months going around to treatment centers. And I walked into this one treatment center, and they're like, "Oh, you should meet our outreach guy." So in walks Randy. And I will say I didn't know who he was. And I looked at him, and I said, "You know, did you ever play football?" And he sort of chuckled, right? He's got these big mitts, and I think he had a ring like yours. I don't know if it was a Super Bowl ring, but it was maybe from college. And he said, "Yeah, you know, I played a little ball."
Yeah, Randy. Yeah.
And then I researched him, and I said, "Oh my God, what a putz I made of myself."
Yeah, when you talk to him, give him a hard time. He never had a chance. Tampa Bay Buccaneers can't go to Super Bowls, so that was a college championship ring or something like that.
Yeah, I think he said he played a bail, but I got to tell you, you know, I really like coming on the show, but he is just a super human being. I mean, just unbelievable.
He's the one that showed me the way out, man. He was great.
What a great guy. So I'm going to talk to him next week. But wow, oh my God, Vance, thank you so much for sharing this with us. Listen, hold on a second, because I'm going to sign off from Facebook. But next week, guys, Randy Grimes is coming on the show. The big guy. Hold on a second, Vance.